From the Opupco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson. Barry Trammell on the road covering the Big 12 men's basketball tournament, but he joins us on the phone. Barry, let's get to our 5 and 5 segment. Let's start with this true-false question. True or false? The Big 12 tournaments will one day return to Oklahoma City. Not just the women, but the men as well. Barry, what about this?
I'm going to say true. I think it will anchor in Kansas City. We're here through 2016, so 3 more after this one. And I think Kansas City will always be a regular host and the predominant host. But Bob Bowlesby said a few weeks ago, he said that the Big 12 is sort of committed, not really committed, but is really wants to move the tournament around. I think Oklahoma City will get it again, maybe in 2017. So I wouldn't lose hope on that, but I do think Kansas City will host 3 out of every 4, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with true as well. I think Oklahoma City will get the tournaments back. I don't think it's going to be a lot. I don't think it's going to be often, but I do think that Oklahoma City, because of its history hosting both tournaments, the fact that the arenas are across the street from each other, the energy that's created from that, I think the Big 12 love that. I think they love good attendance at the women's tournament, and that's going to be tough to come by in a lot of other places. It's been tough to come by in Kansas City for a lot of years. We saw it tough to come by in Dallas this year. So I think they like that attendance. I think that attendance is helped by the fact that the men's tournament's right across the street. So I think it will come back. It'll just have to wait a little while. And then we'll probably have to wait a few years in the interim before we get it again. All right, Barry, let's talk a little spring football. Down at OU, who's the non-quarterback Sooner football player most under the microscope this spring?
I am going to say, and I actually think it's coaches more than anybody.
Sure.
But if we're talking players, I am going to say that it's going to be Corey Nelson. Corey Nelson is a linebacker who didn't play that great last season. In fact, Mike Stoops ended up not even playing linebackers some as an experimental thing. Now he's talking about how great his linebackers are. But if OU's going to play that 3-4 that they're talking about, they've got to get great linebacker play. I think there's quite a bit of pressure on Corey Nelson to step up and be a dominant player on defense.
Corey Nelson is the guy that I think so too, Barry. Frank Shannon also, I'll throw him in that mix. But I also think you got to look on the other side of the ball at wide receivers. They've got some guys that proved themselves a year ago. Sterling Shepard, on down the list with guys that have played. But when you lose Justin Brown and you lose Kenny Stills, you've got to find that guy that's comfortable with the new quarterbacks. And we don't know yet who is going to be the quarterback. So who's going to be most comfortable with Blake Bell? Who's going to be most comfortable with Kendall Thompson? That's going to be a really interesting thing to see. Is it going to be Sterling Shepard? Is it going to be somebody else? Is it Trey McTwire going to recover after a freshman season that wasn't nearly what people thought? So I think receivers, who emerges as that go-to for sure guy. We've seen it in the last few years how important it was to have that Ryan Broyles guy, that Justin Brown guy, somebody that could really step up and make a play when they needed to. Who's it going to be in the receiver corps this year? I think that's going to be something to watch. Well, Barry, what about in Stillwater? Who's the non-quarterback at OSU that's most under the microscope this spring?
I think it's Michael Harrison. This is the guy that was, I think, in line to be their leading receiver last year. Had to sit out the entire season because of some issues. I think the Cowboys they found some other guys. Josh Stewart is obviously going to be a star, already is. But this is a place that loves its wide receivers, uses a bunch. I think the Cowboy coaches are looking at Michael Harrison to find out, can we count on this guy? We talk about a Corey Nelson. The question is, how well can he play, not will he play? I think with Michael Harrison, they know he can play. They just want to find out if he can play.
Yeah. I think another guy on the offense that I'll be looking at this spring at OSU is Jeremy Smith. We know he can play, but can he be a feature back? I think that's a question. We saw him struggle with injury last year, and now that Joe Randall is gone, they're going to really put a load on him, or you would think they're going to put a load on him. I think that remains to be seen. Can he remain healthy? Can he carry a much bigger load than he ever has before? He's been more of a situational guy in most instances for the Cowboys, so I think that it remains to be seen just how much he can do for them, and this spring's going to start to give us an idea. Are they going to feature him, or are they going to look elsewhere and maybe some of those other backs to be a little bit more of a 1-2 combination or go with a multi-back set? I think we're going to start to find out this spring. Our fun question of the week, Barry, it is March Madness time. What is your favorite March Madness memory?
Well, I actually, I have two, I guess. I hope I don't take one of yours because I was with you on one of them. But I actually was sitting courtside for Bryce Drew's shot. I was sitting by an AP, an Associated Press news reporter who was just brought in to help cover the event. His name was Patrick Casey. And Patrick was not from Oklahoma. He actually had attended a small university in Indiana, Valparaiso. I was sitting next to a Valpo grad when Bryce Drew hit his shot at the Myriad in '98. And the look on Patrick's face, it was the most stunned look I've ever seen in an arena. But outside that, on the court, I'd have to say John Lucas' shot against St. Joe. What a big-time player and what a big-time shot. And all of a sudden, Oklahoma State was back in the Final Four. And what a phenomenal night. And you were there next to me there in the Meadowlands.
Yeah, I was, and that definitely ranks right up there. You know, a game that stands out recently, we had the regional in Oklahoma City a couple years ago. Kansas was involved, but Kansas did not survive. They lost to Northern Iowa. I happened to be covering that game and sitting right in front of the Northern Iowa fan section, which was basically parents and boosters, and I happened to figure out who the star, Ali Al-Farouk, I can't remember exactly how to say his name, but his parents were sitting right behind me. He made the big shot down the stretch, and I just remember sort of getting a chance to watch what's happening on the court and what's happening in the stands behind me. I definitely think that stood out as well. But, you know, from my childhood, I am from Kansas. I was a Jayhawk fan, so that '88 championship, sorry Sooners fans, has to be one of my favorite March Madness memories. I did not have to cry that March, Barry.
A flag on both your houses. A flag on both your houses.
All right, let's end it with this one, Barry. The Thunder not playing Ronnie Brewer is fill in the blank, Barry.
Well, it's a waste. It's a waste. I mean, if you're the Denvers or I don't know who else, the Clippers. Got 10 guys in the rotation, and they're all good and all. But the Thunder's a little thin on the bench. I think we can all agree on that. You find a ball player, your good bench players don't have to fill up the basket. Your good bench defenders sometimes can just keep the other team from filling up the basket. They tell us that Ronnie Brewer is an elite defender. Everything that Tom Thibodeau at Chicago said agrees with that. So if you don't have James Harden, and you don't have instant offense off the bench, get me some instant defense. Hold the fort, hold the other team to 2 or 4 points over 3 or 4 minutes, and then let Durant and Westbrook get back in and start the point brigade again.
Yeah, to me, the Thunder not playing Ronnie Brewer is shocking. It really is. I mean, when they brought this guy in, I thought, oh, wow, a second-team Thabo Sefolosha. I mean, that was really what we were led to believe, is that this is a guy who's going to play with the second unit, who's basically going to give that second unit what Thabo Sefolosha gives the first unit, a guy that can defend a lot of positions, really gets after it. And yet, we haven't hardly seen Ronnie Brewer at all. I mean, this is a guy that's a lottery pick. We saw in New York, we saw him fall out of the starting rotation, but just because New York doesn't play him doesn't mean the Thunder don't have to throw good sense out the window and not play him either. It's shocking to me that they're not using him, a guy that we really have been led to believe and that people that know say is a guy that can play, and yet we haven't had a chance to see him. I sure hope that changes, and I think it's going to need to for the Thunder to really have a deep, deep playoff run. And be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.